concerns for an increasingly indoor generation. Gosh. Well, if it's just too easy to be inside, then you likely will. If you've got everything inside, then the temptation is to do so. I just finished up 10 years of living in a 24-foot diameter yurt, middle of February, in the middle of the night. You have the pleasure of, if you have to pee, you have to go outside into the snow, and it's not as comfortable as living in a home, but at the same time, there's this full-bodied, three-dimensional living where suddenly the simple act of going pee in the middle of the night takes you out into the cosmos.
I garden, and I garden, and I garden. I've been gardening for, let me see now, since I was about 5 years old. So that's 67 years. It's wonderful to be able to sort of plant this ugly bulb in autumn, and it's brown and it's wizened, and you think, oh, nothing's going to come of this. And then when spring comes along, you have beautiful flowers. I mean, that to me is a miracle. It really is amazing. And I just hate to think of people missing out on something like that.
It's a little scary, actually. What we're missing as a society when we're spending so much time indoors, it's not just the connection with nature, it's the connections you get while you're connecting with nature, if that makes any sense, because typically you're not alone. Most of the people spend time with people. So you go out and you have this experience in nature, you get to share it with that other person. It creates a deeper bond and deeper relationships. When we're looking at our screen, you're not creating real relationships with people.
The big one in the first 7 years of running outdoor school is parents would report their children being more at peace and peaceful or emotionally balanced for about 3 days after a day in the woods. Kids who have to actually interact with a dynamic environment are getting a level of sensory integration that won't happen in a static environment like a classroom. And the upshot is that those systems, your visual system is stimulated more in a natural environment than a artificial one. Our sense of balance, equilibrium, what's called like proprioception and vestibular systems, all those things have to be stimulated and developed before kids develop the higher executive and cognitive function that we desire and try to and go for when in an academic setting. But when we just go for that cognitive stuff right off the bat, it's like trying to run before we crawl. So that's the big one, I think, like getting sensory integration first in order to get to where we want to be, functioning human beings. So that's a big one.
I happened to see something quite interesting the other day. There was a woman who was out pushing her child in a stroller, and I thought, how nice to see, this little child outside, and I thought, there's so much there that they can experience. I mean, if you stop to look at the flowers or the trees or the birds. But Mom was pushing the stroller with one hand and she's on her phone with the other, and I'm thinking, what a learning opportunity is being lost here. And if they aren't going to sort of give their children an appreciation for nature, they have no idea what they're missing out on.
There's a bit of a sleight of hand. There's something shifty about pointing to 9-year-olds and dismissing them as this lost generation of indoor addicted screen junkies. We don't have a child or youth problem. We have an adult problem.
You can get your groceries, you can get, anything online, you can get your clothing shopping, your shoes. You never have to go anywhere. People are working remotely now. They're working from their homes. And so if they're working from their homes, they're not going out to the grocery store where they have the opportunity, not just for themselves, but to take their kids, walk to the grocery store where they might see a flower or see a frog or see a critter or, somehow be able to notice or be a part of the things that are going on outside, even if it's just a matter of listening to the birds singing. So they're not getting that opportunity. So we've got it on our TVs now. We've got Nature Channel on our TVs where it's literally just, hearing birds and seeing trees instead of actually walking outside and experiencing it.
So an increasingly indoor generation will feel isolated and numb because they're not directly connected with that which sustains them, that which our entire species grew up on. The atrocities of the 20th century were all perpetrated by educated people, educated men, oftentimes. Time outside is, again, it's like if you develop a relationship with robins and that individual robin, that's like a connection, and you're working like the muscle of empathy or compassion or understanding. You're going outside of yourself.
My big worry is that if children aren't connected with nature and they don't have a healthy appreciation for the environment, that they aren't going to care about the fact that our songbirds are disappearing. Our bees are having problems. And the pollution, like if they don't really realize how beautiful nature is, they're not going to want to safeguard it.
We're not seeing how the food gets to our plate. We're not seeing how, the food gets into the grocery stores that is not in a box with 10,000 different ingredients in it. So then we're not even eating well because we're of that disconnected nature, I think. So when you have that connection, you have that appreciation of what it took for the food to get on your plate. I think you nourish yourself differently. I think you think about what you're going to eat differently. Everything. I don't see where there is not a space where our connection with nature isn't affected by not getting out there.
I've been thinking lately that it's somehow been labeled boring to talk about the weather. And it can be, but it only is if we're unskilled at it. Because actually the weather is totally interesting, right? If it's just like, oh, another gray day, that's kind of the end of it, then the kids are just going to soak in that kind of like low level awareness and kind of negativity.
And literally that stop and smell the roses, take the time to stop and smell the roses is I think a huge thing. It's not to rush through life trying to get to the end of whatever the goal is, that we're always shooting for all these goals, and we've got this society of this, we've got this list of things to do, but we're never taking the time to really appreciate the things that are around us.
You don't build a boat designed to float and then put it on land kind of thing. We're designed to be outside, and so when you take something that was created and designed from the natural world and put it in this other spot, then yeah, there's neurosis there. There's like a disconnect, like a leopard in a zoo, right? A leopard was designed and came out of the jungle, and so you put them in the zoo, and before you know it, they're just doing figure eights all day, and sort of just gnawing at themselves.
When you're walking down the street and you see, somebody's garden, just to be able to appreciate the work that went into the garden. Everybody can walk outside. Everybody's got a park somewhere close to them. Everybody can open a window. I think the guiding principle is just to understand what's in your world around you.